Apartheid is the political system of racial segregation. The practice of apartheid in South Africa gave privileges to white people and discriminated against people of color. From 1948 through 1990, the country struggled internally with violence and strife, until one man was finally able to make a difference. That man was Nelson Mandela. Born in a small South African village and educated as a lawyer, he spent most of his life laboring as an activist and ultimately reintegrated the people of South Africa. The segment you are about to watch tells the story of Mandela's fight for justice. The narrator uses pronouns to tell Mandela's story. As you know, pronouns are words used to replace nouns. You can add variety by incorporating pronouns into your writing. Pronouns are classified into several types. Personal pronouns are made up of words such as he, she, and it. Demonstrative pronouns include the words this, that, and these. They're used to point out or demonstrate something. Indefinite pronouns refer to an unspecified person or thing and convey the idea of some, none, any, or all. Finally, interrogative pronouns are used to ask a question. Examples of interrogative pronouns include whose, which, what, and whom. Remember, when writing with pronouns, your usage must be clear to the reader. It is easy to make mistakes with simple words like it or they. You need to make sure that the nouns they refer to are clear. As you watch this story about Nelson Mandela, notice how the speakers and the narrator use pronouns. In the 1960s, Nelson Mandela was sentenced to life in prison for sabotage, treason, and violent conspiracy by South Africa's white minority government. However, prison did not stop Mandela from pursuing his goals. He steadfastly refused to give up his political beliefs for freedom and quickly gained a reputation as one of the most significant black leaders in the country. Released in 1990, after 26 years in prison, he had become a symbol of hope and the fight for justice in South Africa. In 1991, Mandela was elected leader of a political party called the African National Congress, or ANC. He became a loud and clear voice for a people long silenced.
When I came out, there was naturally a great surge of optimism on the part of our people. They could see that this was the beginning of a new era, that their hopes and dreams were about to be realized.
Unfortunately, it would take many years and more violence before these hopes were realized. After months and months of hushed talks and secret meetings, the formal end of apartheid came. It was now the 1990s, and even though apartheid laws had been reformed, they brought their own set of problems. South Africa erupted into violence, and it seemed a conspiracy within the South African government was at the root of the bloodshed.
What all of this was designed to achieve was the perpetuation of white minority rule, to subvert the movement towards genuine change.
With Mandela head of the ANC and black nationalist organizations free to conduct business, the future of South Africa depended on negotiations between all parties to determine how the country would now be governed. Mandela convened an historic first meeting with South African President F.W. de Klerk. The core issue was whether there would be a straight majority rule or an enforced sharing of power between black and white in this post-apartheid government. The meeting seemed to end on an upbeat note.
It has been this government's goal to normalize the political process. Today we can say that a great step forward has been taken.
3 months after this historic meeting, political violence exploded into the black townships around Johannesburg. In 3 days of fierce fighting, 32 people were killed. The government blamed the violence on what it called black-on-black tribal conflict. As the death toll mounted, Mandela approached President de Klerk.
I went to Mr. de Klerk several times to urge him to take action. And I said that you have got the muscle, the forces to put an end to this violence.
Mandela had once described de Klerk as a man of integrity. Now, he was having second thoughts. Mandela's party became convinced the chaos caused by the violence was precisely what President de Klerk wanted in order to maintain his power. During the first session of the National Convention for the Future of a New South Africa, the talks spiraled into a deadlock. The core issue of how to run the government loomed insurmountably between the two key players. De Klerk's government was at an impasse. It could not ban the ANC again, and it could not put Mandela back in prison. What was the best course of action?
The challenge which Condesa places before each one of us is to unshackle ourselves from the past and to build anew.
Mandela came up with a set of simple demands that would ultimately end the violence and would help bring the two parties closer to a resolution. De Klerk conceded to Mandela's demands in a show of good faith. Mandela and de Klerk worked together to bring about a peaceful transition to a non-race-based democracy in South Africa. Nelson Mandela's role in resolving the differences between white and black South Africans was pivotal. He and de Klerk were together awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. The following year, South Africa held its first multiracial elections, and Mandela was elected the country's first black president. As you listened to Mandela's struggle to end apartheid, did you notice the use of pronouns throughout the segment? Pronouns are words used to replace nouns and can help add variety to your writing. The narrator and the speakers used a variety of personal, demonstrative, indefinite, and interrogative pronouns. Learning how to effectively incorporate pronouns into your writing will prevent you from having to repeat nouns unnecessarily. And be sure to keep in mind that your pronoun usage must be clear to the reader. Lots of confusion can be caused by small words like it or they.